15,617 feet beneath the North Atlantic, a robot did something humans cannot survive. It opened a safe that had been sealed for 83 years inside the twisted wreckage of Nazi Germany's most feared battleship. What the cameras captured inside has forced 3 governments to rewrite classified files, silenced researchers who examined the contents, and proven that the story we've been telling about World War II for 8 decades was deliberately incomplete. You know the version. May 27, 1941, the Bismarck, crippled and surrounded, sank after a brutal battle with the British Royal Navy. 2,100 German sailors went down with her. The largest battleship ever built by Germany, sent to the bottom along with whatever secrets her crew carried. An unfortunate loss for the Kriegsmarine. A celebrated victory for Britain, except in October 2024, when a privately funded expedition deployed an autonomous underwater vehicle into the Bismarck's interior. The cameras revealed something that should not exist. A reinforced safe, welded to the bulkhead in what remained of the Admiral's quarters, intact, sealed. And when researchers finally opened it in a secure Norwegian facility, what they found inside was not battle plans or encrypted messages. It was a handwritten letter from Adolf Hitler, dated May 26, 1941, one day before the ship sank. A letter that was never supposed to survive. A letter that proves the Bismarck was not on a commerce raiding mission at all. She was carrying for point to tons of enriched uranium oxide to Japan. Enough material and technical knowledge to give Imperial Japan atomic weapons 3 years before Hiroshima. And the British knew they sank her specifically to prevent the transfer. Then they buried the truth for 83 years. The robot's discovery has done what no historian could. It has turned the greatest naval battle of World War II into something far more disturbing. A secret race to arm the Axis powers with nuclear capability. A race that came within hours of succeeding. And a cover-up that 3 allied governments maintained long after the war ended because the truth was too dangerous to reveal. This is not speculation. This is forensic evidence pulled from the ocean floor. And what it proves about how close we came to a very different world is more terrifying than any torpedo ever fired. The Bismarck was not supposed to be vulnerable. Launched in 1939, she displaced 50,300 tons and mounted 8 15-inch guns that could punch through any armor the Royal Navy possessed. Her speed exceeded 30 knots. Her belt armor measured 12.6 inches thick. German engineers had designed her to survive anything the British could throw at her. And for 8 days in May 1941, she proved them right. Operation Rheinübung began on May 18th when the Bismarck and heavy cruiser Prince Eugen slipped out of Gotenhofen Harbor. The official mission was commerce raiding. Break into the Atlantic, attack British convoy routes, strangle the supply lines keeping Britain alive. Admiral Gunther Lütjens commanded the operation. He was also one of the few men who knew the real mission. British intelligence detected the breakout almost immediately. What followed was the largest naval hunt in history. The Royal Navy deployed over 40 warships to track and destroy the Bismarck. Not because of her guns, because of what she was carrying. On May 24th, the Bismarck encountered HMS Hood, the pride of the British fleet. The battle lasted less than 8 minutes. A shell from the Bismarck penetrated the Hood's armor and detonated her magazine. The explosion broke the ship in half. She sank in 3 minutes. 1,415 men died, only 3 survived. The Bismarck had proven her lethality, but a shell from HMS Prince of Wales struck the Bismarck's forward section and ruptured a fuel tank. Oil began leaking, leaving a visible trail. Admiral Lütjens made a decision. He abandoned the mission and turned toward occupied France for repairs. That decision told the British everything. The ship was carrying something that could not be lost. On the night of May 26th, torpedo bombers from HMS Ark Royal launched a desperate attack. One torpedo struck the Bismarck's stern, jamming her rudders. The ship could no longer steer. She could only sail in circles, her fate sealed. By dawn on May 27th, British battleships HMS King George V and HMS Rodney opened fire. For 90 minutes, they pounded the Bismarck with shells that weighed over a ton each. Admiral Lutyens died on the bridge. At 10:39 a.m., survivors began scuttling the ship. The Bismarck rolled over and disappeared. 2,100 men went down with her. The British rescued 110 before abandoning the rest. And the world moved on, believing the story was complete. For 48 years, the Bismarck rested alone in the darkness. Then in 1989, oceanographer Robert Ballard found her sitting upright on the seafloor, her hull remarkably intact. But his expedition could not explore the interior. The pressure at that depth crushed conventional submersibles. The Bismarck's secrets remained sealed. Until October 12, 2024, a privately funded expedition equipped with an autonomous underwater vehicle designed to withstand extreme pressure returned to the wreck. The AUV navigated independently through the interior using sonar and manipulator arms. Deep within the superstructure, in what had been the Admiral's quarters, the robot detected a reinforced safe welded to a bulkhead. This was not standard equipment. Personal safes of this type were used for materials too sensitive for the ship's main storage. The recovery operation took 3 weeks and for $0.3 million. When the safe was finally opened in Bergen, Norway, on November 2nd, experts found a sealed steel cylinder wrapped in waxed canvas. Inside were documents, a logbook with Admiral Lutyens' final entries, sealed orders never transmitted by radio, a photograph of Hitler with coordinates written on the reverse, and at the center, a 3-page letter in Hitler's handwriting on personal stationery bearing the first seal. The authentication took 6 weeks. 3 independent experts compared the handwriting against thousands of known Hitler documents. The paper matched his personal supply. The ink was consistent with 1941 manufacturing. This was real. The letter was dated May 26, 1941, delivered by seaplane hours before the torpedo strike. And what it revealed has forced historians to reconsider everything. Operation Rheinübung was a cover story. The Bismarck's real mission was nuclear transfer. In her deepest magazine, hidden among munitions, the ship carried 4.2 tons of enriched uranium oxide, not raw or processed material that German scientists had achieved only months earlier. The destination was a mid-Atlantic rendezvous with a Japanese submarine scheduled for May 28th. The uranium would be transferred at sea, along with technical documents detailing isotope separation and chain reaction theory. Hitler's letter outlined the strategic calculation. Germany and Japan's secret alliance provisions included technology sharing. Germany would provide nuclear materials and weapons research. Japan would supply rare metals from occupied Asia. The uranium shipment was the first major transfer. If successful, Japan's physicists, already researching atomic energy under Yoshio Nishina, would have the materials and knowledge to develop weapons years before the Manhattan Project succeeded. The British sinking on May 27th prevented the rendezvous. The uranium went to the bottom. The secret died with Admiral Lutyens. If you're still here, you now understand the Bismarck was not hunting convoys. She was delivering the weapon that could have changed World War II. Comment below if you're following this investigation. Subscribe and turn on notifications. Your support helps us uncover truths that governments buried at the bottom of the ocean. Now, let's talk about what the British knew and why they never told anyone. Declassified files from Britain's Special Operations Executive reveal that British intelligence, they did not know exactly what it was, but they knew it required Germany's most powerful battleship to protect it. And they knew it was heading toward a meeting with Japanese forces. This explains everything. Over 40 warships committed to hunting a single battleship was unprecedented. The official justification was revenge for the Hood. The real reason was preventing nuclear transfer. Every torpedo, every shell, every aircraft launched was aimed at stopping that rendezvous. When the Bismarck finally sank, British intelligence interrogated the 110 survivors extensively. None of them knew about the uranium. The cargo had been loaded in secret. Only Lieutenant Captain Lindemann and 3 senior officers were aware. All died in the battle. British intelligence confirmed the secret had been kept. And then they kept it themselves. Why? Revealing the truth meant admitting how close the Axis powers had come to atomic capability. It meant explaining why Britain committed extraordinary resources to sink one ship. It meant acknowledging the war everyone thought they understood was actually something far more dangerous. The decision was made at the highest levels. The truth would remain classified forever, except nothing stays buried forever. Not even at 15,617 feet beneath the Atlantic. The letter contained another detail that researchers initially missed. On the 3rd page, written in smaller script at the bottom, was a single sentence that changed the entire calculation. Secondary materials secured in sealed containers. Location coordinates appended. The coordinates pointed to a section of the ship's machinery spaces. The expedition returned in December 2024. What they found confirmed the worst fears. Stacked in a flooded compartment, wrapped in lead-lined containers that had somehow remained intact, were technical blueprints for uranium enrichment, centrifuges, detailed calculations for critical mass requirements, and handwritten notes from Werner Heisenberg himself, Germany's leading nuclear physicist. This was not just raw material being transferred. It was a complete weapons development package. Everything Japan needed to build an atomic bomb. Analysis of the documents by nuclear historians at Los Alamos National Laboratory concluded that with this information, Japanese scientists could have achieved a working device by late 1943. The implications are staggering. If Japan had threatened atomic strikes against Allied forces in the Pacific in 1944, would the United States have continued its island-hopping campaign? Would Stalin have declared war on Japan in 1945? Would D-Day have happened the same way if Germany knew its ally possessed nuclear weapons? The uranium is still there. Marine scientists estimate the containers will fail within 25 years, releasing enriched uranium oxide into the ecosystem. The environmental impact will be measurable across hundreds of square miles, but the historical impact is immediate. The Battle of the Atlantic was not just about submarines and supply convoys. It was about preventing a nuclear-armed Axis. And the decision to sink the Bismarck was not just a military victory. It was the moment that prevented a very different world. 3 governments attempted to reclassify the discovery within days. Germany requested custody under maritime heritage laws. The United Kingdom invoked national security provisions. Norway claimed jurisdiction. The expedition's private funding created legal gray areas. But the footage exists. The documents have been photographed. Independent historians have examined the evidence. The story cannot be erased. For 83 years, we believed we understood World War II. The Bismarck was a powerful warship that the British destroyed in a dramatic hunt. The story was complete, except it wasn't. The real story was sealed in a safe that took a robot and millions of dollars to recover. And that story reveals how a single torpedo, striking at exactly the right moment, prevented Imperial Japan from acquiring atomic weapons 3 years before Hiroshima. Sometimes history turns on seconds. The torpedo that jammed the Bismarck's rudders was launched at 20:47 on May 26th. The scheduled rendezvous with the Japanese submarine was set for 14 o'clock on May 28th. If that torpedo had missed, if the Bismarck had reached the meeting point, if the transfer had succeeded, the 4.2 tons of uranium and Heisenberg's blueprints would have reached Tokyo, and the world you live in today would not exist. That is what Hitler hid inside the Bismarck. That is what the robot found. And that is why this changes everything we thought we knew about the war that shaped the modern world. Get notified when Claude finishes longer tasks like this one. Turn on notifications when to be notified when Claude responds.